we're not wealthy people that, number one, are above anyone else. I still struggle with making sure the utilities are paid, clothing the kids, the grocery bills are astronomical, the gas. I'm just a normal person. And when people see that about me, that I'm constantly being told that that's what they really want. They don't want someone that came from a political background, that was raised to be in politics, that is living a life outside of what the people in their district live, or understanding them. And nothing against them or knocking them. I know wonderful legislators whose whole family has a political background, and that's just how they were brought up. But I just have chose to remain just one of everybody else. I don't want anything special. I just want to help people and listen to people and talk to them like a normal person.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential.
Hey everyone, I'm your host David Fromm, and I want to welcome you to the American Potential podcast. Everyone has life experiences that shape us, and sometimes those experiences are so impactful they either knock us down or they motivate us to stand up and make a change. For today's guest, she was like most moms in America, focused on raising her family and working. But during COVID, she was working as a nurse and started to see people's medical freedoms being taken away. So she started asking questions. Then a family tragedy a year later changed her life. Instead of letting it defeat her, she turned her pain into purpose, working to make a difference not just for herself, but for her grandchildren. And that's what led her to run for state office, not because she planned it, but because she wants to protect people's freedoms. I want to welcome to the podcast Michigan State Representative Jamie Thompson. Representative, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your show.
So to start out, can you share a little bit of, just about your story, why you decided to become a nurse and kind of what that process was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, my mom was a nurse, and I always admired my mom and looked up to my mom. But when I graduated high school, I didn't go right to college. I got married at 20, and I had my three children, and I decided to stay home to be a stay-at-home mom with them. And making that choice, I always knew that I would go back to school, but I just didn't know what that would look like. And then when they were all in school officially, when my youngest was in kindergarten, then I began taking college classes at 28 years old to go back to school to be a nurse, and went through, got my nursing license. It was really hard when my children were in school, and sometimes I had to choose to do my homework or their homework, or at the time, my oldest was getting a little rebellious. She was a teenager that ended up having a boyfriend that my husband and I didn't like. So we had to work through all of that in order for me, and just keep pushing through that this is what was best for our family. This was best for me. And nursing school is not easy. Nursing school will break you. And I know a lot of families that have nurses in their families will tell you that story. It's really hard to get through nursing school and come out on top. But I did. And then we're the normal suburban, middle income family that my husband owned a construction company, had his business license, and my mom was nursing, I was nursing, raising three children, and was not engaged in politics, wasn't interested in politics. I think my husband and I felt like things were good as a state and as a country if he had work, because he was in the construction business, and we were just really busy and not paying attention. And then when 2020 happened, everything changed in our lives, which drew me to the point that I'm at now.
Yeah, so the COVID lockdowns are what really drew you in and caused you to pay attention to politics and what your government was doing, if I'm understanding that correctly. Maybe talk about, tell me about how that came about for you, and how you saw the issue of medical freedom being taken away as something that concerned you.
Well, here in the state of Michigan, many people know that Michigan was one of the hardest states, and took the longest to lift some of those mandates. And I was a practicing nurse at the time, and I just saw things happening, the confusion in the beginning, typically as a nurse, you're not wearing gloves and masks in the hallway because it tends to scare patients, or they think maybe you're infected with something prior to us even knowing what COVID was. It just was not policy to ever wear your gloves and a mask in the hallway. You just didn't do it. And your mask was for um, sterile technique. It was not for everyday mask wearing. And the confusion of do this, don't do that, we're doing this, now we're doing this, wear your mask, wear your gloves. Nope, we're not doing it today. It was just, it didn't make any sense to me, even from the beginning. And then when I started seeing the doctors coming into the units with their scrubs on, and then the director of nursing getting upset because she thought he was scaring patients because normally the doctors would come in their suits. They didn't have their scrubs on. So, and when I started talking to the infectious disease nurses, what do we think this is? What's going on? What is our plan? And when I was told we don't have a plan, we're sort of figuring this out as we go along, that didn't sit right with me because one of the things that I love about being a nurse is having autonomy, being a critical thinker, being able to think outside of the box, protecting my patients, advocating for my patients. There was no proper training. And then it quickly spun into they weren't letting us do the things that we knew how to do, even when it came to providing an inhaler, Solumedrol, um, a steroid that was number one on your list to use for people with respiratory issues, even if it was, bronchitis or even a flu or allergies. It was such a common medication that we always provided. And people were coming in and we were basically sending them home and telling them until you can't breathe anymore, don't seek treatment. And then I was watching a lot of my nurse friends, that one of them in particular, she was working on a COVID unit and her husband got diagnosed with COVID and he ended up passing away. And the absolute unrealistic, unheard of thing happened. She was not allowed to sit with him and be with him on the same floor that she worked. But the day he died, she couldn't be with him, but the next day she was expected to be back at work on that same unit. It was making no sense to me and it was tearing me apart. And
Oh,
my husband said, I don't think you should go back. I think that you should, take a leave of absence, maybe go per diem. Things that had started getting pushed right when I kind of backed away, the push for medical health professionals to get the vaccine were no so strongly pushed. And I was talking with nurses that said, I'm going to walk away from nursing. I've I worked my whole life to become a nurse, and the education and the costs, the student loans, to make a choice because you're always taught once a nurse, always a nurse. And I saw these healthcare workers stepping away because they did not trust the vaccine. They didn't trust the time that it took for it to be brought about. And then even there's a whole world of healthcare professionals that choose not to vaccinate and choose not to get the flu shot and choose not to even give their children vaccines, all or none. And that was always okay. And all of a sudden now it wasn't okay. So the lie that was told that this is nothing more than you're not allowed to work in a hospital unless you're vaccinated for the flu or get your flu shot because it's not a vaccine. Get your flu shot. What's the difference in getting a COVID vaccine? And then I would say, because I've never gotten the flu shot, I choose not to. I sign the form that I'm choosing not to. I put my mask on like they want you to, and that might last a week. And then everybody knew the deal. Then you just roll around to everything. You went back to not wearing your mask. You were never chastised for it. You were never demeaned for it. Um, so I started paying attention to what was going on in the news. I started paying attention to a lot more conservative podcasters, Dan Bongino, Candace Owens. And then we came into, so I decided not to go to work anymore. I went per diem, which meant that I just had to work one weekend a month. And where I was at, I actually got very lucky. And unless things were really, really bad, I never got the call that I had to come in because at the time our children were on Zoom, which meant two of my grandchildren were on Zoom. And my daughter, at the time in 2020, she was taking her prerequisites in college to become a nurse herself. So, me being at home trying to help the grandchildren on the Zoom so that my daughter could get on Zoom because there was no way I was going to let her drop out of school and lose her momentum because she was right there where she was going to be making her application to get into the nursing program. She was just completing all of her prereqs. That summer when the whole BLM movement and Black Lives Matter and the election with Trump and Biden and what happened here in Michigan, at the TCF Center, everything was exploding. And then really what really pushed me very hard into the political world was I had seen a girl, a nurse that I'd worked with for many years, an African American woman. Her and I had a great relationship. We went to dinner together. We went to our grandchildren's birthday parties. And she put a post out on social media saying to ban the 4th of July. So this was, end of June that year. Ban the 4th of July. If you celebrate the 4th of July, you're a racist because we weren't free on the 4th of July. I didn't know what Juneteenth was. I didn't know what BLM was. And I was just like, what is this? And I'm like, racist if I celebrate the 4th of July. So I reposted it and I said, "Oh, now we're racist when last summer you had that great big barbecue that everyone went to and we were all celebrating the 4th of July. But now I'm going to be a racist if I celebrate the 4th of July." And immediately I was doxxed to the point of inundated with people from all over the state of Michigan that they were sending to blast me and message me. And my inbox had like 500 messages. All these directors of nursing at different hospitals across the state of Michigan said, "You'll never work in healthcare again. You're a
Wow.
racist." They would screenshot my nursing license and said they were going to, there's nothing they could do, but they were going to try to go after my nursing license and report me as not being able to, because I was racist. I was not capable of caring for the black and brown community. And then after I dealt with that really quickly, they found out that my husband had a business, kitchen cabinet
Hmm.
remodeling. So they're like, "Oh, they have that business. Go get the business." So then our business page went from a 5-star rating. My husband and I had spent 4 years building our social media platform, redoing kitchen cabinets with a process of commercial spraying and saving people money and painting furniture. And it was our own little thing that we were doing together that really blew up. They destroyed it. They went through 4 years of um, kitchen remodel pictures and just continuously said racist, 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 racist. And there was nothing I could do. So we contacted an attorney and he said, "Well, maybe you should remove the page for a little bit and let it die down." We got death threats. We got our address sent to us. My husband and I went and got our CPLs that summer in 2020. And looking back, I can remember watching a Dan Bongino episode at the same time and him saying, "What are you going to do when they come to your door? Are you going to back down? Are you going to hide? Are you going to be muffled?" And my husband and I said, "No, absolutely not." So we did not delete the Facebook page. We actually posted on the Facebook page that we know we have a lot of deposits out there, but we do not support BLM. And if you're not okay with that, you don't have to agree with us. We'll give you your money back and that's completely fine. We got a couple people that did ask for refunds because they said they supported BLM. And if you can remember the social dynamics of that summer of 2020, what was happening where people couldn't speak out and if it was about the vaccine, if it was about BLM, if it was about, it was so contentious and so heated, but we had a lot more people support us. So we started working on a state rep campaign because then I said, "Well, who is our state rep?" So then I found out who it was. I found out there was a Republican running against him. So we started volunteering on that campaign and got involved and became a delegate in our area. And then that took us right into 21. And then June of 2021, my daughter, she was 24. So my 2 sons, we have 3 children and 4 grandchildren now. The 3 children were 24, 22, and 20. And on June 24th, 2021, the police knocked at our door and told us that our daughter had been taken. She was in a motorcycle accident, and she was taken instantly. So about 7:30 in the morning, we got that knock that no parent ever wants to get, and
Oh,
to look out your window and see 2 police officers. And everything that I felt is exactly what you would feel or you could imagine feeling. The inability to breathe, the panic, the screaming, the not really remembering everything that happened that morning, but thinking immediately about the 3 grandchildren and that was their mom. That was their mommy. And the grandchildren were 3, 5, and 7. And even my 2 sons, they were 20 20 and 22, and, that was our daughter, and that was their sister, and it was hugely devastating on our family, but going back a little bit, this happened on a Thursday, the 24th. So on the 22nd of June of that year, just 2 days prior, my 93-year-old grandfather passed away peacefully in his sleep. And our family was upset, but really was like, wow, he really had God's grace. He passed away in his sleep. His skin was intact. He had end stage Alzheimer's, but he lived a good life. Um, and we were all with him when he passed away. My daughter was very close with him. That was her great grandpa. And she wanted to get his suit from the cleaners for the service. So we are right in the middle of planning my grandfather's funeral and going through pictures and going through everything for the funeral. He was a veteran. So here downriver in Michigan, we have an honor guard. So he was going to be had that honor guard and have them at his funeral. And my daughter Jordan was going to take that suit to the cleaners. And that night, that Tuesday night, I talked to her. And so literally was Papa passed away on Tuesday. Wednesday night, I was talking with Jordan about make sure you get the suit from the cleaners. And she said that her and the kid's dad had broken up. So she was going on a date to get her mind off of things with some new boy that she had met, new man. And I said, what's going on with that? I thought, you weren't seeing him anymore, because she had sensed that he was maybe a little bit controlling and abusive, just like the kid's dad, because they'd been separated. Long story short, I said goodnight to her about 11 o'clock and told her that I would see her in the morning, and for her to call me and tell me what was going on with this new guy that I thought she wasn't going to see anymore. And I never saw her again, and I never got to kiss her goodbye. And we had to have a funeral service for my grandfather and my daughter.
Oh,
And my grandfather was an open casket, but my daughter was a closed casket. And we would not have been able to even function or breathe unless we had family and friends to support us and help us. I mean, how were we going to make arrangements for the two of them? Or even looking at the fact that they were so close, and then he passed away right before her, and that they would share a funeral.
yeah.
It's just unheard
What
of.
but you also had the burden of your grandkids.
Yes.
And
Yes.
obviously they're in deep grief, you're in deep grief, but you have to figure out how to care for them. How did you guys take that on and make sure that they had what they needed?
Number one, God. Number one, above all else, God. My mother, being a nurse, she was actually a hospice nurse and had a lot of connections with some social workers that worked within hospice and helping children deal with the loss of a parent. So we had a few phone calls with them on how to tell the kids. We didn't tell the kids for probably 3 or 4 days. And looking back, the oldest, who was 7, he remembered. He said, I knew something was wrong. I knew that mom had passed away, but nobody would tell us, because we didn't know how to tell them, or what the right time to tell them was. So we listened to the social worker, who just kind of broke it down just to be very honest and simple, honest and simple. And then she kind of told us the dynamics of how they would have react based on their age. And it really played out exactly like she said. They did give us a book that you could read to them. Um, but we just wanted to be honest with them. Um, I didn't want to, I really didn't believe in the whole moms in heaven looking down on us, um, biblically based. And even losing Jordan, I got deeper into the Bible, and, people can agree or disagree, but biblically, the pastors that I spoke to said, the reality is she's not in heaven looking down on you, because she is in a place where the what the what earth offers, she's never going to have contact with earth again. And I think that was when I accepted the fact that I just had to raise the grandchildren the best that I could, without their mom, without their dad, because he took off. He hasn't seen them in 4 years. And then reaffirm my faith in Christ, because I know I want to be with my daughter again someday. And I know that she was a Christian, and I know that she prayed for forgiveness. And I think you accept that when I don't like they're down looking over you, or only the good die young, or you hear some family that will do hashtags like forever 24. We still celebrate her birthday every year. We still take the kids to the accident site. And that was kind of what was really important to us was to take them to see where the accident was, that it was a motorcycle, that the, the gentleman driving the motorcycle was heavily intoxicated. He shouldn't have been driving. My daughter and him went out to dinner, and she ran into a guy that she had went to high school with. And the guy literally just hugged her and said, "It's good to see you again. I haven't seen you in years." And the new boyfriend got jealous. He got into a fist fight with him. They were kicked out of the restaurant, jumped on the bike. Jordan got on the back of the bike, put her helmet on, and the video showed them leaving. And in 10 minutes, she was gone. And in the kids' little minds, I think they were thinking there was bridges or there was ditches or there was cliffs. And we just wanted to take them to show them it's just a road. It was an intersection. There's no bridges because I didn't want the stories or that to be something that they started to develop in their heads about what it looked like. And we said that mom was thrown off the bike and she hit her head really hard, and God took her right away. And man, I think back 4 years and I don't even know how we even survived or got through that. I think that whole year was just a blur.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, I can't imagine having that kind of unimaginable tragedy on top of all the drama that was going on in the world. I mean, I think back to, was it 5 years ago only now, which seems like a lifetime ago. And there was so many crazy things going on, and you being a healthcare professional were right in the middle of it. So how did that lead you now? So then you decided to go and run for office as if you didn't have enough going on, raising your grandkids, dealing with grief. Like, how did that come about?
It was definitely a calling. I remember the day I was sitting on the front porch and I was listening to the wind chimes, and I was just, I keep saying I couldn't breathe because I really couldn't breathe. Losing your child, it felt like I was in a desert and the sand was filling in my throat, and I just wanted to breathe. And I gave everything to God, and I just said, I am giving you everything because I can't breathe with this pain. I can't focus. I can't raise these grandchildren to have a relationship with you. So I give it to you. And had heard people talk about that. And I thought, well, I don't have to say that out loud. I'm a Christian. I was baptized. I was confirmed. I take communion. I go to church. And I had friends that say that it's something that when you do that, you become new again. And I really had that realization that I felt different. I felt like I really had given those burdens and those problems over to Christ. And I said, tell me what to do. Tell me where to go. Take my feet and move them. Open my ears. Open my eyes. Tell me what I need to do and I will do it. And with a very short time, the local GOP was looking for someone to run for that seat, and no one was really standing up. And I remember talking to a guy that I had met, in the political party, and I texted him and I said, "Does this sound crazy if I think about running for that seat?" And he said, "Not at all." He said, "I think that you see in you what I've always seen in you from the time I met you, your advocacy, your empathy for people, your ability to talk to people, and absolutely go for it." And then I had just have the conversations with my family. And my mom said, "Are you crazy?" Number one, it was, "You're a nurse. You're going to go back to nursing. You're going to raise these kids. You're a nurse. You don't belong in politics. What are you even thinking?" And then my husband was like, "Absolutely not," at first. And then our group of friends, he said he kept waiting for a sign from God. He kept waiting for God to say, "Yes, she needs to do it." And I was holding off until I had his permission, or his, he was on board with us. And then we kind of had a local GOP meeting, and someone says there was like three people standing in the hallway, and they were like, "Okay, we're taking a vote now if Jamie's going to run or not." And two guys said yes, and my husband said no. And then my husband goes, "But the majority wins. Let's do it." And
Wow.
he was very supportive. I was the underdog. I was not born into politics. I was not. I didn't know, even wealthy families in our community that I could have a good donor base because, it takes money to win elections. I really ran a grassroots campaign where I knew the more people that I talked to, the more people that I listened to, and didn't try to throw a bunch of political jargon their way, and was on their doorstep saying, "Hey, I just live down here. I'm your neighbor. I live over here in Brownstown. I'm just running for office because of A, B, and C." And I didn't make it about Republican or Democrat, where we were a very 50-50 district that flip-flops constantly. And at that time, we had redistricted, and they projected it to be like a +3 Dem win. And I won. I won the primary. There was 3 of us in the primary. I got 70% of the vote in the primary. And then, the GOP and the House Republicans came on board and started supporting me after the primary. And then the election, I only won by 770 votes, which was the second smallest margin in the state of Michigan. And it was actually in 2020 when the state of Michigan lost everything, where we
Right.
lost the governor, we lost the House of Representatives, we lost the Senate, we lost the Attorney General, we lost Secretary of State. So everyone was devastated that morning because Michigan had lost majority. And I came through as a Republican when the Dems won everything. People couldn't believe it. And then in 24, I increased my numbers up. I won by 4,500 votes. So almost a 10-point
Wow,
win.
that's a dramatic increase.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It was about building those relationships and about voting my district. And the ability to do that is I'm pro-life, I'm pro Second Amendment, I'm a conservative, I'm a Christian. I vote my morals and my values, but when it comes to things that benefit people in my district, because other districts are just different. My district is a blue collar working community. It's a suburb of Detroit. We're 20 minutes south of Detroit and 20 minutes north of Ohio. So we're right in southeastern Michigan in the lower portion. And there's a lot of things that happen in our district that don't affect other districts. And I understand how it feels for, the social issues, the single moms that are trying to go to school like my daughter was, the families that are on government assistance but use it as a stepping stone to get off and not be held down by the system. And I see that system. And then I also, as a nurse, I'm an advocate and I believe in educating people and giving them all of the information, and then they make that decision. And then I always follow through with people. The most important thing I think is when people reach out to my office, whatever the concern is, that we follow up with them. And even if I can't solve their problem, that I reached back out to them and said, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to get that done, or I didn't get an answer, but I'm here for you. What you're saying is important and it matters. And that's really even swayed Democrats. It blows my mind that my proudest moments, honestly, are when I get messages saying, "Hey, I'm a Democrat. I'm a loyal Democrat, lifelong Democrat, but you're really working for us and you're really in the community and you got my vote. I voted for you."
So you were, I mean, you're in the midst of turmoil from coming out of, COVID, working as a nurse, dealing with that. Then the BLM protests kind of upended your family business and, really are just dramatic all the way around. And then you had unbelievable personal tragedy. You're now dealing with you have to figure out what to do, how to have your grandkids have a great life. And you're the primary person for that. But then that ends up leading to you to run for office. What of all of that stuff, all that tragedy and difficulty, how has that informed, one, you taking the step to run for office, and then how has that informed your life as a legislator?
It's gave it purpose. It's given my life purpose and it's keeping me grounded because I don't believe in being a politician. I firmly believe in being a public servant. I remind everyone on a daily basis I am no one special. Don't treat me like I'm special because I'm just like you. Um, we bleed the same. We deal with the same financial stress. The misnomer is, and I know every state is different on if it's a full-time legislature, a part-time legislature, the money they earn. Legislators in Michigan in the House of Representatives, we actually voted, I guess I was talking to someone not probably, I'm going to say maybe 15, 20 years ago. It was a long time ago. They voted to take a 10% decrease because they needed the money for state funding that year. And we've never had an increase since then. So I brought home $63,000 last year. And my husband never went back to work because of the grandchildren. And he's just at the point that they're 7, 9, and 11. So it's time for him to go back into something but try to stay close at home because I'm in Lansing a lot. I'm at the Capitol. And we're not wealthy people that, number one, are above anyone else. I still struggle with making sure the utilities are paid, clothing the kids, the grocery bills are astronomical, the gas, just a normal person. And when people see that about me, that I'm constantly being told that's what they really want. They don't want someone that came from a political background, that was raised to be in politics, that is living a life outside of what the people in their district live or understanding them. And nothing against them or knocking them. I know wonderful legislators whose whole family has a political background, and that's just how they were brought up. But I just have chose to remain just one of everybody else. I don't want anything special. I just want to help people and listen to people and talk to them like a normal person. And a lot of times these politicians forget that, and they forget how to talk to people. You can see it in the conversations they have. They're really, they're not down to earth anymore.
Hmm.
And I'm kind of just that, I can go up to the river and fish barefoot, or sit and, have a beer with my friends, and I'm not at some fancy restaurant. I'm just a normal person, and I will never change being that normal person. That will never change, even if I decide to go further into politics and higher up the ladder.
Well, it seems like your constituents are recognizing that. So, Representative, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing just such a powerful story with us, and all the tragedy and turmoil that you dealt with, and how you're using that to serve the people of your district, to make a difference for the people of Michigan. I really appreciate you kind of giving us a peek into your life and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Well, folks, if you like this episode and would like to stay connected with the podcast, be sure to subscribe to our channel, as well as following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And always remember, liberty and freedom are easily taken for granted. Don't take it for granted. Go out there and defend freedom and liberty. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.